Hello again. Welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Enigmatica 2 Expert. So today we're going to be working on the bottom floor of kind of our magic building. Starting to get this all put together and built out and looking nice. It's something I've been wanting to get to, but for a long time I didn't know exactly how I wanted to do it and exactly how I wanted to set it all up and everything. Of course, this area is kind of the hub for a lot of our botania stuff that'll be taking place here. So we're going to be doing a build that reflects that, I think. And yeah, we're only going to get half of it done this episode. It's a ton of speed building. Probably one of the longest projects, especially for only being half of a single project. Probably one of the longest projects that we've speed built, maybe. I'm trying to think back, but it's definitely a big one, to say the least. So we're going to be working on that. Like I said, this is only the first half. In the next episode, we may pick back up and go ahead and do the second half, or we may do one other side project that I wanted to get done before the world upload. So it'll be one or the other. We basically got 3 speed builds here, back to back before the world upload. Of course, internet, it has been acting up. Hopefully that gets resolved pretty quickly, though I do know we are supposed to be getting fiber in due time, so we'll see. But anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the speed build, and then we'll catch back up at the end of the speed build and go over some of the stuff that we've got built and some of the stuff that we're going to be building in kind of the part 2 of this speed build. Okay, so getting started, of course, you guys remember the kind of the leaf dome. I actually spent a long time on this back forever ago getting flowering oak leaves because, you know, they do take a little bit to get. But you can see I'm running kind of a border here of living wood and just kind of running this out. Now, I will say this build was probably like 10,000 plus blocks. It was absolutely ridiculous. A ton of living wood, a ton of leaves, a ton of just other stuff. You'll see as we get it all kind of coming together. Now, those of you that did like the dome of leaves, that still will kind of show up in places and leaves, but it won't just be a big circular dome throughout the Botania area, because I felt like that was kind of bland, and it was kind of somewhat of a placeholder because, like I said, I didn't know, because this floor is so massive. There's tons of space. But I also didn't want rooms. You know, I didn't want to just fill it with rooms because it was intended to be more open, allowing kind of air and stuff to come in here. I wanted it to feel open, but still have it kind of segmented. And we are still going to be using that kind of that sphere of leaves, that dome of leaves there, for plotting this out. We're just not going to be using it for just a dome of leaves, you know. Now, right now, I'm just kind of course, there is a lot of times where I'll be off camera in this because it's just such a big space that we're working in. So I'm running circles of things. Right now, I'm running circles of living wood. Kind of bringing this up, and it was funny because whenever I was bringing this up, for the first little bit, I was trying to make sure that everything was even. You know, as far as the living wood matched and was completely mirrored on every side, and it was all, you know, exact. And then I decided it doesn't matter, because what we're placing right now is really just for, if you're looking up through, like, say, leaves or something, you can see that living wood behind. It's basically just, we're using this to kind of plot out the general area and the general shape, but it's not that important that it is too exact and too even across, you know, every area and stuff. So some of it may not be, especially towards the end of it, it may not be completely even, or completely, I guess, a complete pattern, let's say, across all of it. But this is just kind of plotting out a general workspace. So lots of living wood. Of course, this is why I waited until we got the living wood generator set up to start this, because I had this kind of in my head, and it did change a little bit since then. You know, once I got in here and I started building it and stuff, it did change a little bit. Kind of got a good idea and a good grasp of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to lay things out. And so then it was like, yeah, we got to get the living wood generator to do this. And I did have to stop a couple times and let it refill because we were running out. Like, it would be done running the buffer would be filled as much as we had it filled. I did discover that I didn't turn on the redstone for the living wood, so a little bit of a problem there, because it kept creating living wood to where it was backfilling up the chests where the collection of the living wood goes. But then I turned on the redstone, but it really wasn't an issue because I used all the living wood. That was basically just at the start of this project, because I let it run and build up a lot of living wood at first. But we used, like, I did quite a few cuts here, you'll notice, and that was basically where we ran out of living wood. And I would always let the buffer pretty much fill back up and then come back. It took a long time. It took an absolutely long amount of, like, a long time to do this, but luckily we had all those flowering oak leaves already farmed up, because we used an absolute ton of those, to the point I had to farm up a few more. And for part 2, I know I'm gonna have to farm up more, but that's okay. It shouldn't be too many for part 2. Part 2 is mainly going to be more like the floor, the planter boxes, different little things like that. But we started with the ceiling with this build. Now the floor, we did run out all those bricks recently. Those are going to mostly stay, because we're going to be using that as kind of the floor. But we're going to add a lot of detail to it and kind of break it up a bit. So that'll be fun. But yeah, we're still doing living wood. And I sped this up quite fast. You can see the sun moving at a pretty good rate there. But like I said, this took, I think I spent 4 hours or something like that just in speed build footage of just this part. Quite a while, but we're almost done with this, and then we get to start layering it, which it took so long. I ran out of living wood there, but you can see I'm starting to plan out layering. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running out branches. And these, they won't be completely apparent in this style, but I'm just kind of plotting out where the branches on this would run. And of course it does have that living wood on top. Like I said, you're not really going to notice that. That's just for it being behind leaves. Because what we're going to be building is kind of a tree that runs up here, like a large tree. And I'm thinking long term, once we get the rest of the magic building done, and I'm like, I want to add more to this, I'll probably add an underground area where you can go down more to the base of the tree, where there'll be like roots and things under the ground. I think that would be kind of cool to do, but that'll be in the distant future. I have a lot to work on Enigmatica. Of course, lots of projects that we're doing and lots of projects planned, so that'll be sometime in the future. Once I'm like, I need another big project to work on, and I have lots of living wood and roots built up. I am definitely going to be increasing the buffer on the living wood. I probably should have done that sooner, but I am definitely going to be increasing the buffer, because we just use so much of it for some of these builds. That 44 stacks or whatever, it's just not enough, realistically. It's not enough at all. Alright, so now I think I might have, between that cut, I might have come back and filled in that living wood that we placed out, or that was missing at the start of the last cut. I don't know. I know I filled it in. I just don't remember if I did it on camera, but it's not a big deal. But now we're going to start running leaves around where those root sections are going to be, and then we're going to cover that cobblestone with living wood. So you won't be able to see the cobblestone, of course, but that was just for planning purposes. So you can see kind of the branches coming together. Now we are going to come back. This is very much a layered build for this roof. Like, the speed build's almost entirely doing this roof. It's terrible. But we're layering out the leaves, just a flat layer for right now. We're going to come back and add depth and detail to those leaves. But for right now, we're just doing this completely with oak leaves, because I had so many oak leaves from when we were farming flowering oak a long time ago, that I figure, well, we're going to do the oak leaves, just a flat layer, and then we're going to add the detail after that. We will remove some of them in places, and we're going to cover a lot of them. But just running leaves, leaving one space between the leaves and the cobblestone at all points, and just running out living wood all around the cobblestone. Of course, I'm doing the living wood after the leaves, because otherwise I'd lose where I'm supposed to be placing it, because it would just kind of blend in with the ceiling. So it just kind of made it a bit easier for me as far as planning this out. So, and we'll be plotting this out. I think I did this speed build footage at like 60 times speed, just so we could kind of keep somewhat up with my character as I'm building. You can see he's starting to kind of get a little bit off screen here, but it's sometimes we'll get ahead of him and sometimes we'll get behind him a little bit, but yeah. And you could tell whenever I start running a lot of this and not running any living wood, that's because we have ran out of living wood again, and I'm waiting for the buffers to refill. And I just run leaves in the meantime, and then what I'll do is run as many leaves as I feel comfortable running at that time, and then I'll come back through and grab some more living wood and run out some more of the branches. Now I tried to make the branches reach outwards to the stone, to the stone wall, the hardened stone. And that's because I think we're going to have, in some places, we're probably going to have some of the branches poke through it a little bit. Not like it's destroying the building, but just for a little bit of kind of interest, kind of poking out of the walls in places, but not like it's completely overgrown, because the intention is that this tree is kind of somewhat of a magical construct, and like something maybe not as wild as the Telvanni houses from back in Morrowind. But, because they would just grow their houses, but maybe not as wild as that, a little bit more controlled than that, but kind of in that same vein there. And what's cool is you'll notice that, of course, because this area is so big, it's like a 5x5 chunk area that we're working in building this roof. We have a few different biomes, so the oak leaves kind of change colors in places, because we kind of have the bluish oak leaves throughout most of it, but we do have some of the darker green oak leaves. And that was one really nice thing about working with oak leaves, and why I decided to use mainly oak leaves for this, is because oak leaves and flowering oak leaves as well, they will actually change colors slightly based on the biome type. Because originally I was planning on doing kind of a mix of leaves. If you think back to, I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe it was the Enigmatica, the old Enigmatica 2 series, when we were playing on the server. Purely Platonic had like a lot of leaves and stuff in their base, and it was kind of a mix of leaves. It looked really, really cool. And originally I was thinking, oh, maybe we'll do something kind of like that, but then I started placing the oak leaves, and I was like, oh yeah, they're going to change colors. I like that. So I decided to kind of keep just sort of a just basically oak leaves on the roof. Now below it and in places we probably will do a mix of leaves, because I absolutely love the look of that. But for this part, just oak and flowering oak, really. And now we're finishing out the branches, and you can see we've come around, and it's starting to look a bit better. Though right now it does kind of look like roots a little bit, but once we come back over with more layering, it'll look a little bit better. And at some point, I don't remember when, I do come over and add a little bit more living wood in places, just to make certain branches a little bit thicker. Though I think it's after we do some more layering, so it may not be as apparent, because the way that we're going to cut away a lot of those branches. Now right now we're going to start building kind of the trunk of the tree. This would really be like the top of the tree, because like I said, I'm thinking we're going to make it so we can go down below this layer of floor at some point, and so the tree will actually run down a ways and then come down to roots. So this trunk, even though the top of it's kind of like ground level, maybe it was like it was dug down real deep, and then the tree was planted really far below the surface here, and this tree has kind of grown up, and it's just the top. Now it is still pretty tall, but like I said, it's mainly just going to be the top of the tree here that we're building out. And we're going to go with kind of a rough, once again, this is going to be something that we're going to layer out quite a bit, but kind of just a rough shape there. And we're going to come back to that. I just kind of wanted to get the rough shape down so that I could then run some of the branches downwards and kind of connect things up so that they work out kind of logically when we start running and setting up the tree itself. Now right now we're going to come through and we're going to layer leaves, and this is going to break up the branches to where they don't look like a solid branch. We're going to have leaves hanging downwards and different things that are hanging below those branches where the leaves are kind of poking through. So the leaves are going to be really, really broken up. So you can just kind of make out at this point that there are branches up there, but you can't make up the entire shape of the branch, you know. And once again, this is going to take a lot of leaves, but at this point we're actually placing out normal oak leaves and flowering oak leaves. Now it is a little bit dark, and I do apologize about that. That will get fixed later on in the speed build, but I'm actually wearing the night vision helmet. I crafted out one of those just to make it a little bit easier, because I was like, I need some kind of cheap, easy night vision. Normally I don't use the night vision helmet a lot because it does have durability and it is fairly fragile, so caving with it and stuff like that I'm not crazy about. But for something like this, where I only get hit every so often because of a skeleton feeling cheeky and shooting me from on the ground, it does happen. But for the most part, I'm not getting attacked much, so I figure, well, I'll just make one of these because they're real cheap on here, and use that. But it doesn't do night vision in the speed build, so it's a little bit dark right now, but yeah, at this point we are placing literally thousands and thousands of leaves. I am cutting away some of the base leaves that we placed to put in flowering oak, and then I'm also layering a lot underneath, and kind of doing a mix of flowering oak. I did want quite a bit of flowering oak, and then, you know, a bit of just regular leaves, just to kind of add texture and detail to it. But we still have a lot of stuff to add to this. Like I said, this whole build is mainly layering out this ceiling. Like, it's ridiculous, the amount of blocks and the amount of time that it took, and the amount of, like, you know, between certain cuts, especially here in just a little bit, I had to stop and go plan. I had to go over to the agriculture building and do some thinking, looking at fruit, just all kinds of stuff. I mean, I worked on this for a bit, and then I did some other recordings, and but I think I worked on this for almost a week. Like, not just yet, but it did take a while. It took a while. I know as far as speed build footage, there's about 14-15 hours of build footage, but then, or maybe it might be a little bit more than that, I don't know, but then tons of time in between getting materials, crafting things, and just planning. So it's a lot of time. It was funny because my son was interested in this build, and he came in here one day and he said, you know, he was watching me and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I like that tree." I said, "Yeah, I'm just getting it started, you know," because I was basically just plotting out the ceiling at that point and explaining what I was doing to him. And he comes back like 3 days later, and he's like, "You're still working on the tree?" I was like, "Yep, I'm still working on the tree," because he was gone to his grandparents, like on his dad's side, and so he was gone for a couple days. And whenever he got back, I was still working on the same thing. I was still layering. At this point, I was kind of like layering out some of the leaves and stuff like that. But some of the, I guess it's probably the next thing we do, I think, was where I was at about that time. But we're just about done, I believe, with layering leaves, the base layer. So you can see at a distance there some of our branches broken up. Now we will come back over because there is still some connected branches in places, but you can see we kind of have this nice texture going at this point. Now what we're doing right now, you will notice off at the bottom right now, you will see a big wall of vines. That's my big wall of slimy vines. But these things do spread really quick, so, you know, hit up a slime island, grab some slimy vines, and started running these down. And I went with slimy vines because, first up, they have that bluish color. They actually look perfect for this tree, like absolutely perfect for kind of this really magical tree. And it's funny because the vibrant green almost looks sickly. It's like the sickly part, because the rest of it's all really, really blue as far as the leaves go. But I'm running down these slimy vines because they will grow, and they will also taper off, and we don't have to place a bunch of string to get you know, vines that hang down, but they don't block out the entire room. Because, you know, if these ran all the way down, they're going to block sight lines for the entire room. They're going to be a nuisance. We're going to be slowed down when we fly around in here. But this keeps them kind of off the ground. They still look nice, and we have the added texture of having all these vines hanging down, which I quite like. But we will be adding some stuff here in just a minute for some kind of some longer stuff hanging down. That hangs down a little bit lower but doesn't really cause a nuisance for us. Now, right now we're going through and we are putting in fruit. And we are actually going to be putting down a mix of durians and passion fruit, I believe it is. Because I was playing around with fruits, and my girlfriend was in here helping me at that time, and I was placing down fruits, and I was like, do I like this? And at first I was just doing one single fruit, but she said she liked two fruits. And so played around a bit more, and we both kind of agreed durian and passion fruits actually look pretty good together, and kind of gave the tree a bit more of a magical feel, like it's growing these like magic fruits, you know, maybe that extend life or something like that. And then right now we're adding a little bit of light, and that is done with the illumination wand from Astral Sorcery. So we have these glittering bits of green that kind of flicker on and off, which I do quite like. So you can kind of see the magic of this area starting to come together here now that it's all lit up, and we kind of have this really vibrant blue color to it, which I quite enjoy. And then we have all this fruit and stuff hanging down, and these vines, and we're going to be adding just a little bit more. I don't really know what I was doing at this time. I would think I was just adjusting, adding some fruits in places, and adding some lights and little things, just kind of cleaning up some of the detail to make it look a little bit nicer. Up through here, yeah, you can see me making passes up there, but oh, and I know I was adding about this point, yeah, I see mossy living wood and glimmering living wood. I was tossing in some of those around this point. I think right now just mossy, but we're gonna hit it with some glimmering. I couldn't remember. There's, like I said, so much layering and so much going back over and adding detail. Now at this point we're going to be running down silver lanterns, and I'm doing so with and my character's like standing. It's doing that thing where I stand still, so I'm just standing there on the tree, but I'm actually running around. I'm not magically building from the tree. But these are Enderium chains from the Cathedral mod. Now bear in mind, of course, if you're playing just the base pack and you did not add Cathedral mod like I did, you will not have these chains. But since I added Cathedral mod, we have chains. And I thought, well, we're going to run down some hanging chains. And Enderium, we're at the point now where making Enderium's not a big issue because we have an Ender factory, basically. And Enderium chains just so happen to be like the exact same color as everything else hanging off the bulk of this tree. So I was like, yep, we're doing Enderium, and then we're doing silver lanterns there. Now at this point we're going to start cleaning up the tree itself and basically starting to layer and texture it a bit, because right now of course it is super bland. So we're going to be adding you know, some shapes and things like that. You can see where we have different entryways. We ended up with like 7 entryways into this tree, and at least at the moment probably going to keep it that way. I kind of like it, because of course bear in mind that the goal of this room was to have it a really open feel, and kind of a big open space for our botania area. I feel like open spaces work best with botania, and not having it too enclosed. So going with this big tree, we've got a lot of space, and we're going to have 7 openings. Basically, each direction and each diagonal, except for where our Elven Gateway portal is pretty much an opening into this area. So we are still keeping the Elven Gateway portal as it was because it actually worked perfect. And it works even better now than it did before, because before it was just this bit of like root that kind of came up and was growing, and now it actually kind of melds into the tree pretty nicely with the way that it's set up now. Now we are going to come through and get rid of that sky stone. That of course was kind of a temporary thing, and we're going to be cutting that away. And you can see that's actually the back of the Elven Gateway portal that we're kind of digging away, and we're going to put something in that little space, maybe an altar or something like that that's back there, sitting behind the Elven Gateway. I could make it so that we can actually just walk through the Elven Gateway, but I don't think I like that much. I think I'd rather have it be, you know, something like an altar or something there, more decorative than anything, I think. Right now, just kind of layering living wood. We're going to come back through and clean it up a little bit. I did make a wand for changing out blocks and stuff, or not a wand, but an exchanger. And actually, I've got Enigmatica pulled up. I need to check and see. It is a Signalum exchanger from the Exchangers mod. And the reason I went with Signalum, I actually had to go into my test world because originally I made a wooden one. Or some, yeah, I think it was a wooden one. And it didn't work. It didn't work for changing out wood because for some reason it's not strong enough to exchange wood. It says its mining level's not high enough or whatever. And now we're coming through and we're adding mushrooms, and we're going to be adding some texture changes with the mossy living wood and the glimmering living wood to kind of give this tree a little bit more life. I love the mushrooms, and I figured I wanted them on this tree because they make it look, they make it pop a lot. And we're going to have, around this, we're going to have, of course, some pixie hovels so that we can have pixies kind of living in our magic area, our little magic forest inside of a building sort of thing that we're going with. So I'm adding the mossy. I'm kind of making it look like trying to make it look like the moss is actually running naturally and not just randomly thrown in there, and then bits of the glimmering living wood through there as well. So that's what it looks like at the moment. And now we're going to switch over to the inside. We're not going to be finishing out the inside, but what we're going to do is we are going to be building out a bit of the inside today, just getting it ready for part 2. Because with the inside, you can see I'm actually clipping out a bit of that, and then I'm just going to vein mine out the top so that it'll be open, because bear in mind we do want this open to the next floor, and we're going to have it so that you can actually just float up to the next floor. And we're going to be adding these kind of little swirly things I have in my head. I don't really know what to call them, but these swirly like vines, spirally vines, or something that kind of come out. I don't really know how to explain them, but we're going to be doing that in the next part of the speed build. Yeah, and we're really just building out a base layer, starting the texturing process that we did on the outside, but this, of course, will be for the walls that kind of run up, but we are going to be making this kind of leafy and green, lots of green in here, and whatnot, so... now we're going to start running some of those leaves, just doing the oak leaves at the moment. Of course, once again, it's going to be a long process of texturing that we have to look forward to us. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. We're just going to be winding down at this point because I wanted to get at least a little bit of this placed out and started so that we had it for next episode to pick, or the next part of the speed build to pick back up on. And we also, I'm building out the little walkways. I will show you them, and adding some texture to this lowest point as well, adding some texture to this little area, and excluding the Elven Gateway portal part. We're going to be adding texture to that, but it's got a lot of texture already the way that it's built into the wall, and we'll add a little bit more detail and make it mesh a little bit nicer in the next speed build. But I knew recording footage was getting long, and I also knew I kind of wanted to break from working on this tree because it had been so long. So I was like, I'm going to do this as 2 parts. I'm going to pretty much have to do this as 2 parts, and we might put 1 episode of something in between it so I can do some other building other than just the tree because it was a very, very long process. So this is where we're up to at the moment. But like I said, we still got a ways to go. There's a couple things I'm probably... Well, I don't know. This is probably going to be it for the trunk. There was a couple things I debated about adding to the trunk. But I decided I didn't want too much stuff on the trunk. So I think this was kind of where I decided to cut off on. I do believe so. But we are going to be removing out the sky stone. And in the next part, we will be working on the inside of this a bit. And bringing this out and kind of cleaning all this bottom up. Where this floor is going to be. Of course, this is all cobblestone at the moment. It won't be. But, and we're going to have it so that we can just kind of fly up into this area up here. And we'll be doing it with the, as you might expect, we will be doing it with botania. And it's late. That's my excuse for not remembering the name of what I'm looking for. Luminizers? Yeah, luminizers. There we go. It just took me a second. But we're going to be building or setting that up so we can just float up with luminizers. And also, we will be, as we bring this out, we will be having kind of shelves that hang off the side of this that have a lot of our botania stuff. So there'll maybe be a platform up here that kind of steps out, and then maybe a platform up here that just kind of steps out, and we'll be building this out and setting it up so that we can just float up once again with luminizers. That way, it's not going to be a very flat area to where you just walk in here and, oh, here's my petal apothecary, and over here is my terrestrial agglomeration plate. Nothing like that. Also, these flowers, these are just kind of moved out of my way. They're not going to stay like this, but when I was doing all of this, I had to remove them and get them out of my way a bit. What's cool is actually if we step back here, you can see. Woo. Oh, I didn't finish. Okay, there we go. But this is kind of the area that runs around it. I might use it for something, or at least make it accessible. We'll see. But it's kind of a neat little area back in here, and we could make it even cooler inside, I think. But yeah, we'll be doing that. There won't be much in the way of crafting things or little areas down here, just to keep the floor kind of clean, excluding the Elven Gateway portal. That'll be the main thing, and this will all stay pretty much the same as we have it at the moment down here, because this is working out quite nicely. I will probably cut down maybe a little bit on the pools that are here, maybe, because the only reason we had multiple pools set up on this was due to the fact that we were running terrestrial agglomeration and all that off of this, which we are no longer doing. So I'll probably cut out the extra 2 pools and the splitter from this, but we'll see. And then I haven't started adding any detail to this because this wall will get reshaped a little bit because, of course, it's pushed back a bit further. And, of course, this is also all just initial layering, and then we're going to be doing things a bit nicer with it. And, of course, I did use an enhanced building guide for plotting out the dome and also planning out kind of where the walls and stuff would run back in here. And as far as the walkways, right now they are pretty much just flat living wood, or not flat living wood, they're just living wood, no detail and stuff, but we will be adding some detail to these. And I did leave this open. This is, of course, down here where our spider spawner is. I still have all the treasure down here I haven't bothered looting. But I think we're gonna nab that spider spawner at some point. And we're gonna have to get some pixie hovels and stuff. Luckily, right here is a little pixie town. But I probably am going to have to go exploring to get more pixie stuff somewhere, just to add to our little forest area. And then we're going to be using these planter boxes. And we're going to be doing the floor come next episode. This arcane stone, sky stone right through here is probably going to get removed. These stairs are going to get changed up. I don't want living rock brick stairs here. But yeah, that's pretty much where we got to at part 1. Hopefully you guys like it. Like I said, I spent way too long on this ceiling. Probably the longest process ceiling that I've ever done. But I am pretty happy with the way that it turned out, I have to say. It's a bit of fun, especially coming in over here on this entrance. And it kind of just having that magical vibe. I love the colors that are up through here. And you can see back in there the living wood that sits there. But I didn't want to be just like cobblestone or sky or something like that, because then you notice those things. Living wood you don't really notice. I think looking up to the mind, not knowing if there's living wood up there, it just kind of looks like, more leaves. Maybe the leaves just keep going or whatever. But if it was sky or cobblestone or something like that, I think it would be pretty apparent. It's like, oh, that's not, that doesn't look right. That's like whenever I missed a couple places where the cobblestone went, and I just had leaves there, and I would notice it. Like, even from the ground, I'd just be flying around, and I'd notice, like, oh, I can see cobblestone up there, so I have to go up there and fix it. I think at this point, I've got at least most of them, maybe all of them. That's one of those things I'll maybe notice some more as I'm working in here, but I think I have gotten all of them at this point. Anyways, I think that's where we're going to end it, and we're going to pick back up with part 2. I think I'm probably going to do one other speed build in between this and part 2, and that's basically just so that I kind of have a break in terms of building from just building this tree. Because we're going to be doing a little bit of the same stuff in the next speed build, which is the layering here. I'd started it and it was just kind of like, ugh, I don't want to do it again right now, because I just came off finishing that last bit of layering, and it's such a long process. So I think we're going to go ahead and do one other speed build. It's a side project that I just wanted to get done for the world upload, basically, so that we did have it done for the world upload, just give the world a little bit more life and depth. Then we'll come back and finish out, yeah, you can see my little graveyard here. We'll come back and we'll finish out the tree for this bottom floor, and then we will have the world tour and world upload in that following episode, I think is the way it's going to work out. And once again, the internet has been acting up. The upload speed has been horrendous. It's been taking me days to upload anything. And in some cases, it has been failing because due to the amount of time that it took and the data being a bit sporadic, I'm sure, and it has failed to process on YouTube a couple times, which has been a nightmare because when it takes you 4 or 5 days to upload, it's kind of annoying whenever it's like, oh, it's failed. You got to restart the upload completely. And my dad has been gone, kind of on one of his, they kind of go around the country a bit and do kind of these workshops and stuff, and he's been gone on one of those, and kind of like it's kind of a vacation, but kind of work too. So, but they're usually gone for a few weeks or even a few months at a time. And so he's been gone, and so I haven't really had any place to upload. And I was calling Zito daily, complaining, and now I've pretty much just given up because they do nothing to try to fix it, and then I end up spending 30 minutes on the phone or more trying to get them to fix it, and it's like a full-time job trying to make them doing anything, and they never do anything. So, I know we're getting fiber sometime in March or beginning of April, is what they have told me, and that's through a different company, so I trust them. I've had them in the past, and their internet has been spectacular. My dad has it, and I'm always super, super jealous, because I used to have that internet, and I'll go over his house, and it'll take me 3 minutes, no joke, 3 minutes to upload a video, and that's even, he's got the lowest package that they offer, so I'm always like super jealous when I go over there, because here I am, it's taking me 3 or 4 days right now to upload a video, and it's finally to the point, it's like, okay, I'm getting fiber soon, I'm tired of fighting this, like I'm just so mentally drained fighting Zito, and calling daily, so I'm just kind of like, okay, we're just going to ride it out, do what we can, and then get new internet, and there will be much rejoicing. At least from me, I'll be so happy. So, but yeah, so we're going to end out this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button, and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, to stay updated with when new videos come out, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode, and then in part 2 after that. For this speed build. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Hope to see you guys next time. Until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I will see you guys then.